The dining room in my West Austin home was bathed in the soft glow of pendant lights, casting long shadows across the polished oak table. The air carried the faint scent of rosemary from the roasted chicken I had prepared, a dish I once thought might bridge the chasm between us. My parents, Evelyn and Richard, sat across from me, their faces etched with the familiar mix of entitlement and rehearsed vulnerability. My brother, Knox, lounged at the table's end, his phone buzzing incessantly, a smirk playing on his lips as if he already knew the outcome of this evening. My son, Asher, was upstairs, likely pressing his ear to the floor, catching fragments of a conversation no 12-year-old should have to hear. The plates were full, the wine glasses gleaming, and the house, my house, built on years of sleepless nights and relentless ambition, stood as a silent witness to the reckoning about to unfold. My father's voice cut through the clink of silverware, sharp and venomous. "You and that kid of yours are nothing but leeches, sucking this family dry." The words landed like a fist, but I didn't flinch. My mother, Evelyn, smiled a thin, practiced curve of her lips, nodding as if she had rehearsed this moment in her mind for years. They were eating food I had cooked, sitting in chairs I had paid for, under a roof I had earned. Yet, in their eyes, I was the intruder, the one who owed them everything. I set my fork down, the metal ringing softly against the porcelain, and met my father's gaze. "You have 24 hours to leave," I said, my voice steady, a blade wrapped in silk. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream, a void that swallowed their indignation and left only the truth exposed. This moment didn't erupt from nowhere. It was the culmination of decades of slights, sacrifices, and silent resentments, woven into the fabric of a family that looked flawless from the outside. To the neighbors, we were the picture-perfect clan. Evelyn baking pies for church raffles, her apron dusted with flour, Richard shaking hands at barbecues, his laugh booming like a politician's, Knox, the golden child, whose every whim was indulged as a sign of his boundless potential. And then there was me, Nova, the quiet one, the reliable one, the one expected to glue the cracks together when the facade began to crumble. From the outside, our Christmas photos gleamed with forced smiles, but inside, I was invisible, my worth measured only by what I could give up for them. As a child, I stood barefoot on the cold kitchen tile, watching Evelyn stir chili, her humming filling the air with a warmth that never reached her eyes. She smelled of cinnamon and laundry soap, a portrait of domestic perfection, but her glances carried an unspoken rule: don't cause waves, don't question, put family first, even if it meant erasing yourself. By 16, I knew my place. Knox could total a car, and Richard would chuckle, "Boys will be boys." I brought home an A- in physics, and Evelyn's only response was, "Don't be so hard on yourself, Nova. Not everyone can shine like Knox." Those words lodged in my chest like shrapnel, and I carried them into the nights I spent staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my bedroom ceiling, wondering if anyone saw me beyond my utility. 10 years later, I had Asher, my anchor, my proof that love could be more than obligation. The night he was born, swaddled in hospital white, his tiny hand gripping my finger, I made a vow he would never feel invisible. He was 12 now, sharp and kind, still believing in the goodness of people. That dinner, with my father's venom and my mother's complicity, wasn't just an attack on me, it was a threat to the world I was building for my son. I couldn't let their poison seep into him, couldn't let him inherit the legacy of being less than. The house they sat in, the one they dared to claim as theirs, was mine. Every brick, every beam, was paid for with late nights in the office, code reviews that bled into dawn, meetings where I had to prove myself twice over just to be heard. I was a senior software engineer, earning $350,000 a year, a number my father would later weaponize. Yet they forked food into their mouths, sipped wine from glasses I bought, as if my sweat and sacrifice were their birthright. This wasn't the first time. The calls came like clockwork. "Can you cover rent this month? Your father's truck broke down again. Knox needs seed money. He's so close to a breakthrough." At first, I told myself it was temporary, a family helping family. But temporary became routine, routine became obligation, and obligation became chains. I learned to recognize Evelyn's tone on the phone tight, rehearsed, like she'd practiced her lines in the mirror. Richard never asked, he demanded. Knox, too busy chasing his latest augmented reality pipe dream, let them do the dirty work while he pitched investors on ideas he'd been recycling since college. I said yes every time because saying no made me the villain, the selfish one. Each yes was another link in the chain, another piece of me surrendered to keep the peace. But peace was a lie they sold me, and I was done buying. The breaking point crept in like a draft under a locked door, unnoticed until the chill consumed everything. It started with a call from Evelyn as I shut down my laptop at the office. Her name flashed on the screen, and I hesitated, knowing her calls never brought good news. Still, I answered, clinging to a shred of hope that this time might be different. "Nova," she said, her voice trembling with practiced urgency, "your father needs surgery. His heart might give out if we don't act soon. And the house, we're behind, $300,000. The bank's threatening foreclosure." I pressed my fingers against the cool glass of my office window, the city lights blurring below. I wanted to believe her, but I'd heard this script before. Big numbers, vague details, always the same ask. "I'll host dinner," I said. "Bring Dad, bring Knox. We'll talk. All of us." The silence on her end was too long, as if she hadn't expected me to demand a face-to-face. But she agreed. Our team is driven by a passion for innovation, always looking ahead to what's next. By combining design, strategy, and data-driven insights, we help brands thrive and adapt in a constantly changing world. That night, after tucking Asher into bed, I sat at my kitchen table and scribbled rules on a sticky note. No attacks on my kid, no cash, and the meeting if needed. I tucked it under my plate like a talisman, a reminder of the boundaries I was finally ready to draw. Doubt gnawed at me, so I called Tessa, my friend since college, who had weathered every storm with me. We met at our usual booth at the 6th Street coffee shop, her pencil spinning between her fingers. "They're lying," she said flatly after I recounted Evelyn's call. "Maybe not," I countered weakly. "Nova, come on. No paperwork, no hospital bills, no numbers. They want handouts. You can't keep bleeding for people who'd let you drain out." Her words stung because they were true. She leaned closer, her voice low. "Record the dinner. Texas is one-party consent. If this turns ugly, you'll have proof. Don't let them twist your story again." I nodded, my stomach knotting, and promised to follow through. The next day was a slow torture, every clock tick amplifying my nerves. When evening arrived, I set the table with precision. 4 plates, 4 glasses, napkins folded into perfect squares. The pool outside shimmered under the porch light, still as glass, as if holding its breath. Asher sat on the couch, his homework spread like a shield. I brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. "Tonight's a grown-up night," I said. "You'll stay with Harper. No arguments." He rolled his eyes, but nodded, accustomed to these sudden arrangements. When the knock came, it hit my chest like a stone. Evelyn entered first, arms full of barbecue, as if this were a casual potluck. Richard shuffled behind, smaller than I remembered, but his eyes still sharp with authority. Knox sauntered in last, phone buzzing, smirk intact, certain he'd win. We sat in silence for a moment, Evelyn filling the void with nostalgia, old birthdays, old neighbors, her potato salad recipe. It was her old tactic. Soften the edges before the blade. I cut her off. "Let's see the paperwork. Hospital bills, bank letters. Show me what we're dealing with." Her smile faltered. Richard's eyes darted. Knox cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. "There isn't paperwork," Evelyn said, her voice tight. "You'll just have to trust us." Trust. The word was a slap, a weapon they'd wielded my whole life. Trust us when we spent your college fund. Trust us when Knox's startup collapsed. Trust us when you worked 2 jobs to cover their bills. Knox jumped in, pitching his latest augmented reality venture with the fervor of a conman. "It's going to change the world, Nova. You're in tech, you get it. We just need a little help." He used my career against me, dangling a carrot I'd never chase. Then Richard broke, slamming his hand on the table, silverware rattling. You make $350,000 a year, Nova. How can you watch your family drown? Evelyn's voice was softer but sharper. Asher's a wilder, too. Don't you want him to know where he comes from? Dragging my son into their mess was the line that nearly broke me. My hands shook under the table, but my voice stayed calm. No, I will not mortgage my son's future to clean up your mistakes. Not again. Knox scoffed, his face twisting. You're playing the victim. You got lucky, that's all. Some of us have vision. The room blurred, their voices rising in a chorus of accusation, shame, guilt, entitlement. Then Knox slipped, his words tumbling out. The debt's mostly mine. Mom and Dad just backed me up. The air went still. Evelyn's face drained of color. Richard looked away. In that moment, I knew this wasn't about a house or surgery. It was about Knox. It had always been about Knox. Evelyn's eyes flashed with desperation. If you don't help, I'll go public, she hissed. I'll tell everyone what kind of daughter you are. I'll drag Asher into it if I have to. The threat was ice in my veins, but it crystallized something inside me cold, clear, final. You have 24 hours, I said again, steady as stone. Leave. They stormed out, the door slamming like a gunshot. The house fell hollow, the refrigerator's hum, and the kitchen clocks tick sharp against my nerves. I stacked their untouched plates in the sink, each clink of porcelain a reminder of how much of myself I'd wasted. Grief hit me, not for them, but for the illusion of family I'd clung to. Upstairs, Asher's light was on. He sat cross-legged on his bed, doodling rockets in his notebook. Did they leave? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. For good. I paused. We'll see. He didn't answer, just kept sketching, a rocket with flames shooting from its base. I kissed his head, forcing my voice steady. You don't have to worry. I've got us. The words were for him, but they anchored me too. The next morning, my phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications, not calls. My stomach sank as I opened TikTok. Evelyn, in full performance mode, sobbed into her camera about her cold-hearted daughter who'd abandoned her parents in their hour of need. She flashed photos of me and Asher in front of our West Austin home, framed as evidence of my selfishness. The hashtags were brutal. Hashtag ungrateful daughter, hashtag family traitor, hashtag heartless. I scrolled until my hands shook. Strangers dissected me. How can she do this to her own blood? Poor Dad. That boy deserves better. That boy, Asher. My chest clenched. If she dragged him into this, he'd face humiliation at school before he understood betrayal. By lunchtime, her video had 100,000 views. By dinner, 500,000. Coworkers whispered, their glances heavy with judgment. My manager called me in, his voice gentle but probing. Is everything okay at home, Nova? Do we need to be aware of complications? I smiled tightly, lied, said it was under control. Inside, I was burning. Tessa didn't wait for me to call. She pulled me into our booth at the cafe, her laptop open. Save everything, she instructed. Screenshots, links, timestamps. This isn't drama, it's defamation. Her voice was fierce. They want a war on your reputation. Fight it with paperwork. I did. I gathered her video, the comments, the emails that followed, building a digital folder labeled case. It felt cold, mechanical, but it was armor. The days blurred. Richard texted, begging for a bridge loan. Knox posted videos, spinning me as the saboteur of his dreams. Evelyn escalated, hinting at my divorce, Asher's, broken family. But then Marin, my real estate lawyer, called. There's a provision in your parents' mortgage, she said. They refinanced 2 years ago. It's in default. The bank can sell to any qualified buyer without their consent. If you want the house out of their hands, now's your chance. Oxygen returned to my lungs. I gathered financials, authorized Marin to move forward. Within days, the sale was underway. The East Austin house, the one where my college fund vanished into Knox's schemes, was about to become mine. It wasn't just property, it was a message. When the papers cleared, Marin drafted notices. My parents and Knox had 24 hours to vacate or face legal consequences. She sent a cease and desist to Evelyn over the TikTok videos. Knox raged in texts, calling me a traitor. Richard bargained, offering repayments he couldn't deliver. Evelyn doubled down online, but her noise no longer pierced me. I hired a cleaning crew, changed the locks, and walked through the East Austin house. The air was thick with dust and regret. In the attic, beneath Christmas ornaments and broken tools, they found a battered box. Inside, my grandfather's original will, bank statements, a letter addressed to me. His handwriting was shaky but clear. The money is for Nova's education. No one else's dream. No one else's debts. Tears blurred the page. Proof. Validation. I added it to the file. Asher tried to keep his routine, basketball, science projects, his telescope aimed at the stars, but he heard the whispers at school. One night, he asked, "Why does Grandma hate us?" My throat tightened. "She doesn't hate you," I said carefully. "She made choices that hurt us. When people are hurting, they sometimes drag others down." He nodded, too wise for 12, and returned to sketching rockets. That night, on the back porch, I stared at the pool's glassy surface and realized I was done playing defense. They wanted to control the story, but I had the truth inked, signed, undeniable. Airports are for beginnings, but for me, Austin's terminal became a courtroom. Their flight landed late afternoon. I stood beyond the security rope, Marin beside me, a folder under her arm. The smell of fried food and jet fuel hung heavy. Knox strode off first, phone in hand, smirk intact. Evelyn followed, clutching a travel pillow, her face a mask of rehearsed weariness. Richard trailed, slower, eyes calculating. They saw me and froze. Evelyn stepped forward. "Nova, thank God. We knew you'd come around." Marin handed over 3 envelopes. "Consider yourselves served." Knox tore his open, his face paling. "You bought the house?" "Yes," I said. "It's mine. Legally, you have no claim. Vacate by the deadline or the sheriff will enforce it." Travelers slowed, curious. Knox's voice cracked. "You're a thief. Always jealous, always sabotaging me." I stepped closer. "You mean when you stole my college fund? When you left me sleeping on floors while you played visionary?" Gasps rippled nearby. Evelyn tried next. "We did it for the family, Nova. You've become so cold." I held up my grandfather's letter. "This was never yours to spend. He left it for me." Her tears froze. Richard boomed, "You don't humiliate your family in public." "You did that yourselves," I said. "Every lie, every threat to drag my son into your mess ends today." Security approached, Marin explaining with calm efficiency. As they were escorted away, Evelyn twisted back, searching for weakness. There was none. I sank onto a bench, adrenaline shaking my body. Marin's hand rested on my shoulder. "You did it." But I knew it wasn't over. Public battles have aftershocks. Still, in that moment, I felt victory, not champagne and confetti, but the quiet power of surviving a war I never chose. The days after were strange, the silence unnerving. Then the fallout came. Evelyn posted one last video, turning on Knox, admitting she'd gone too far. It wasn't vindication, it was emptiness. Knox spiraled, his videos erratic, his followers dwindling. Richard went silent, fading like smoke. The court process unfolded, Marin's precision a shield. The will, the IOUs, the refinance papers told a story no one could deny. The judge ruled in my favor, securing the property and protecting me from harassment. The East Austin house was mine. I cleared it out, keeping only my grandfather's letter. Asher and I planted a pecan tree in our backyard, its roots a promise. Life settled into a rhythm, taco nights, homework, laughter. I told my story to a journalist, not for revenge, but for others trapped in silence. Messages poured in from strangers who saw themselves in my words. Tessa urged me to make it my work, advocacy, community, turning scars into strength. As I tucked Asher in, his rocket drawing under his pillow, I whispered, "You're free to dream, Ash." The truest victory wasn't winning against my family. It was building one with my son, rooted in love, protected by truth. The pecan tree would take years to bear fruit, but it was ours, and so was the future.